The stories describe a 7-foot giant born within an iron ore mountain, with a body forged from solid, glowing steel. He squeezed raw ingots into railroad tracks with his bare fingers and demanded 24-hour shifts without a second of sleep. For decades, Joe Magarac was celebrated as the quintessential folktale of the Eastern European immigrant steelworkers who fueled the American Industrial Revolution. He was the mill's answer to the great American titans. What Paul Bunyan was to the woods, Magarac was to the furnace. But despite his status as a legendary figure of the 19th century, there is no historical record of his existence prior to 1931. The character actually made his debut in a short story for Scribner's magazine, written by a former steelworker named Owen Francis. Francis had created Fakelore, a manufactured narrative stamped with the aesthetics of tradition to appeal to a mass audience. The name Francis chose for his hero carries a specific meaning in Croatian and Serbian. Magarac translates literally to jackass. Actual steelworkers reserved that term for the donkeys of the shop floor, the laborers who blindly accepted management's most extreme demands. Francis had overheard a bitter internal joke about industrial exploitation and presented it to the public as a heroic saga. The smoke-filled industrial complexes of Pittsburgh highlight the enormous power gap that existed between the mill owners and the laborers. To the mill bosses, Magarac represented the dream employee, an indestructible machine that required no pay, no rest, and no safety protocols. While the fictional giant spent 24 hours at the furnace, 350,000 real workers went on strike in 1919 to end those exact conditions. The industry eventually weaponized the myth, with companies like U.S. Steel promoting Magarac through internal publications and children's comics throughout the 1950s. This compliant jackass served as anti-labor propaganda, designed to convince real workers that sacrificing their lives for a company was a noble pursuit. By the late 20th century, the industry collapsed, leaving the massive Bessemer furnaces to cool and the mills to rust in silence. The corporate machinery that sustained the Magarac myth vanished with the jobs, leaving the region with a hollowed-out cultural identity. Yet, in the wake of that decline, the city of Pittsburgh and its displaced workers made a deliberate effort to keep the story alive. As the economic reality of steel faded, the artificial origins of the myth became less important than the community's need for a shared heritage. To modern generations, the figure represents the multicultural grit and literal sacrifices of the laborers who built the country. Joe Magarac became a true legend when a post-industrial community reclaimed a piece of propaganda to honor the dignity of its own history.